Sometimes lenses surprise you, and that is what happened with this incredible new lens from Viltrox. This is single-handedly the most challenging, most difficult lens I've ever had to use, but also perhaps one of the greatest light capturing devices I've ever handled on this channel. This is the brand new 75mm T2 1.33x anamorphic from Viltrox, and it is part of their Epic series. So there's 3 of these full frame anamorphic lenses. They're white, they're very heavy, they're very large, they're not super affordable either. Let's check them out. All I have is the 75mm for this review, which is fine, and I'm happy I got the telephoto. Although it is not as versatile as the 35mm or perhaps the 50mm, it will show more character, I think. We will see. It comes in a large Pelican style case. Inside there is a nice setup with a foam cutout for everything, a little screwdriver tool at the top, mounting bracket with 2 screws and an Allen key, user manuals and a warranty card, and some mount rings with a back focus adjuster scale. The lens itself is a giant, heavy, impressive chunk of metal and glass. It weighs a whopping 1,920 grams, which is over 4 pounds. And you have to ask yourself, why is it so big? It's only 1.33x, and I think Viltrox focused on making these lenses optical performers at the expense of size and weight. Inside there are 18 elements in 13 groups, which is a lot for a prime. Starting at the rear, this is what a PL mount looks like. This is a mount that was introduced in 1982 by ARRI, and it is the standard for cinema lenses. It's a very strong 4 friction point metal setup designed for cinema lenses that are incredibly heavy, such as this one. Although you can also get this lens in Sony E, but I think I would personally get it in PL just because it's stronger. I don't see any weather sealing gaskets, but the front element has a waterproof coating on it. There are no electronic connections. These are all manual lenses, and as we move on to the body, the aperture ring is very nice, declicked, very smooth and heavy, but well damped. It's labeled on both sides, so you'll know what t-stop you are at no matter how complex your camera rig setup. I like these silver gear rings with the standard M0.8 gear pitch. The color is unique. Viltrox is calling it a gun gray gold, and yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. In front of that is the focus ring, which is also geared, very heavy, smooth, but again, heavy to rotate. You get about 270 degrees of rotation, and it's labeled with a focus scale in feet on both sides. And here are all of the lens specs. Viltrox logo, anamorphic, 75, T2.0, 1.33x, prime, cine, and full frame. This is also mirrored on the other side of the lens as well. Around the front, this is an interesting front lens element. It's circular, it's not huge, and it has an oval element in the middle. No writing or nonsense here. This is a 95mm lens diameter, so you can mount your matte box directly to this lens and get filming. And I have to say, this part here, this is by far the nicest feeling lens that I've ever handled on this channel. And I've handled a lot of Sony G Masters, a lot of high-end lenses, but nothing has come close to not only the tolerances and the weight and the heft of this, but kind of just the overall refined look. All the finishes on this, everything here indicates that this lens really is intended for professionals. I feel like it's too good for cameras that I have on this channel. And yes, you can compare this anamorphic lens to something like the Greatjoy or something like the Suri line of anamorphic lenses, but that would be like comparing my son's artwork to a Rembrandt. Yes, they're both pieces of art, but not in the same way. For my purposes, I'm going to use this huge Epic lens on the smallest full-frame camera body that Sony offers. Well, that is up until the new ZV-E1. That is my Sony A7C. And here it is with a little adapter connecting the two together, which on its own costs about $140 US. It looks crazy, and to say it makes for a front-heavy setup is an understatement. This is one of those lenses where you mount the camera to the lens, not the other way around. But again, this lens is really designed for something like the ARRI or perhaps a Sony FX6 or larger, something like a bigger cinema camera. But let's see what happens when you mount it on the A7C and you just go out and shoot some video with it. Ready, set, go. So everything that you just saw was straight out of the camera, ungraded, uncorrected, no messing with the colors, no messing with anything. And this is coming from an 8-bit color budget. This is now 3 or 4-year-old full frame camera. It's a unique look, but what I like most about this lens is that it's a cinematic lens that happens to be an anamorphic, not an anamorphic lens that happens to be cinematic. The fact that it is an anamorphic doesn't steal the show and the attention. It's a sharp lens. In the center, in the corners, wherever your focus is, it's sharp. If you stop down to T2.8 or T4, it's clinically sharp. Excellent colors in contrast, wide open. It's just punchy, brilliant colors, very minimal distortion. There's nothing to worry about with vignetting or barrel distortion and chromatic aberration. It's like this lens belongs to a world in which that doesn't exist. I couldn't imagine how much more watchable The Office would be if they shot it on these lenses instead of whatever they used. In the brightest light to dark transitions, there is no apparent chromatic aberration to worry about. The flare is beautifully rendered. It's subtle with most lights. You really need a bright source of light to get it to streak across the entire frame, and when it does, it's not a complete wipeout of your frame, it's still tasteful. There is some ghost flare or reflective flare, and there's some rainbow effects at certain angles, but compared to other anamorphic lenses, this is nothing. Then you move on to bokeh, and it's just so smooth and so well done. Ovals, not very long, but nice ovals fill the background for a look that feels more expensive. It feels special. The lens just plays with lights, and the outcome is a visual symphony. This is an extremely challenging lens to use. It's very heavy, and you have to be careful not to put too much strain on your camera's mount, because with this weight it could become an issue. The focus ring has a very long throw, and again it's quite heavy. Nailing focus is tough at 75mm on a tiny screen or through a viewfinder, but when you do, you forget about all of that. The 1.33x squeeze is just perfect. You de-squeeze and you get a 2.39:1 aspect ratio with a 16:9 sensor, so you don't throw away anything with excess cropping. You get to keep the full resolution. You get natural black bars on the top and the bottom. It's ideal for creating stuff for the internet. It gives that little edge, that little look that you don't see with other lenses. In terms of focus breathing, there is really nothing to report with this lens. Now, is it perfect? No. I already mentioned the size and the weight. This is really not a lens that's intended for casual shooters or hobbyists like me. It's really geared towards more professional work. You really have to rig it out completely to use it properly. So that means a big, in most cases, heavy camera setup. And really, when you add this to any camera setup, it becomes a heavy camera setup. I can't see myself ever trying to balance this on a gimbal. It just won't work. It comes in this white color, which I'm a big fan of, but for more professional shooting situations, if you're on a movie set, you probably want this in black to minimize reflections. And it's about $3,000 US, a little bit under $3,000, which is not a lot of money in terms of an anamorphic lens, not a lot of money in terms of a cinema anamorphic lens, but it is a lot of money if you're just looking to casually shoot with a manual lens. It's special, it feels special in the hand, and the results, I think, look pretty incredible. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section. If you guys are interested in reading more about this lens and about the whole series of Epic lenses, I think there are more to come as well. I'll leave links down in the description, so check those out. You can check out prices and see how much a kit of 3 of these. I think it's like $8,000, which is a lot of money, but they are truly epic lenses. So thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.